You're listening to Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, and a certified professional dog trainer. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. I've mentioned calm and cooperative an awful lot, and I really want to make that sound more interesting because I think as training goals, we start thinking that things like hand targeting and dogs putting their own legs out for you to do their nails and things like that are really so cool. But I want to be thinking about how to make calm and cooperative a more tangible goal for people. So I was goofing off with my husband. If you've been listening to my podcast at all, or if you know me, you know I'm a pretty silly person. And we were goofing off and trying to think of stuff. And I decided that I'm going to start calling it the Posable Action Figure. So what does that mean? What we really want is a dog who is willing to let us move them into a variety of positions so that we can do a variety of things to them, with them, above them, below them, and around them. And it does sound all encompassing, doesn't it? But I want you to think about the action figures. So as a kid, it might have been that, some of these toys that when you had a G.I. Joe or a Barbie with arms that move and elbows that move and knees that move and all the positions you can get them in and how cool that was. So that's why I'm using it. That's right. I coined it here. You heard it here first. But the posable action figure. So I'm teaching dogs to allow me to guide them into a variety of positions. And it might not be that they're actually staying in that position on their own, because a lot of behaviors that we have for grooming and for veterinary behaviors are kind of hard to balance in. So I wouldn't want a dog to have to stand on their own with like one leg up for me to, take care of a tangle on the middle of their back leg, right? But to be able to guide their leg up and help support their weight, and to have a dog who is willing and cooperative. They're, oh, yeah, okay. I know how to do that. Somebody takes their hand to my body and slightly moves me this way. And what we're looking for is a dog who's willing to let us have them stand, have them sit. I'm going to give you an example for those of you who are not groomers. Trying to get ears trimmed evenly is a perfect example of a variety of body positions. So when I'm doing ears and I'm trying to get them even, well, first of all, I kind of want them to hold their head nice and level. But much like us, as we get older, sometimes we're not really all that level, right? So some dogs have a slight head tilt that they kind of always do. So we're kind of trying to get them to hold their head still and level while we use two hands for things like a comb and scissors, but also to have them stand because their ears are going to look one way when they're standing versus when they sit, and the ears will look different. So I like to get the ears nice and level when they're standing, and then I'm going to have them sit and look up at me the way that they usually do with their owners. It's a pretty common thing, and you want to make sure their ears look nice and even too for when they're looking up adoringly at their owners, because every time they look up adoringly at their owner and their owner sees an ear that's uneven, it doesn't look good for us as groomers, right? But think about like while they're sitting, while they're standing, and maneuvering their head around a little bit, working from the side, working from the front. So being able to be a posable action figure means that the dog is used to being moved in those ways. Being used to having somebody ask them to sit or ask them to stand, guide them through a couple of body positions, but without always having to ask them to move to a particular way. We're actually just guiding it. Just guiding it. We're slightly moving them around. All right. So I talk a lot about being still, but it's still really good for us. When I say something like I want him to hold still, is still actually what we want. And I'm going to define that more for you, because loose still and stiff still are very different. So let's talk about loose still. So a dog who is loose and still has relaxed muscles, and you can check that by just gently rocking into their shoulder and see if they wiggle a little bit, right? It should feel a little bit like a soft motion. If you kind of press into their shoulder, if you kind of lift a leg, they're pretty willing to move it. That's a nice relaxed muscle, and that's a sign of loose stillness. They're easy to reposition because they're kind of keeping their body loose. The dog's calm and cooperative, and the dog's in learning mode, and it is safe to encourage that type of still. Now, stiff stillness is a warning. Their body is rigid. If you go to press and just kind of rock into their shoulder with your hand, it's actually how I test it out when I'm working with the dogs. I kind of just press a little bit and see if there's a little bit of give, if the dog's loose or if the dog is rigid. If their body feels hard and tense and rigid, that dog is stiff. That dog does not want to be repositioned. That's the dog that if you try to lift up their foot, they're trying to press it back down again. That dog is giving you a warning that other dogs would pick up on just from across the room with like a stiff eye, probably with it, maybe a whale eye. But it's often missed by people who aren't really dog savvy. Like owners would say things like, I don't know, it came out of nowhere. He was being so good and he was holding still for us. And while we were doing it, and then suddenly this happened. That's why it's really important to have a hand on the dog and to kind of check. Are you still relaxed for me? Are you still loose? Or are you now stiff? Because we don't want them to be stiff. The dog is preparing to take action. Do you guys remember the toy? It's Jack in the Box. It's like a little box and it has a crazy clown thing in it. And you crank it. It's a kid's toy. But you'd crank it and there's music going and you're just waiting for that thing to pop out. And even though you know it's coming, you're still cranking the thing and it's supposed to pop out and scare you. I want you to think about dogs that are stiff are just like that toy. It's not a matter of if it's going to spring, it's when. So as long as they're stiff and we're keep cranking, that dog's gonna pop. Something's going to happen. That dog is going to take action. But if we backtrack and help them to relax again, to help them to loosen up, that's part of our posable action figure, is that we want them to be loose. Theoretically, action figures that don't have joints could also be, posed, but it would be permanent. Like you'd break things. So when we talk about our posable action figure, let's make that sound cool so that people actually start working toward this goal, right? We want them to be loose enough to allow us to do a lot of things. Allow us to pick up a front leg and do some scissoring. Allow us to lift up their chin or push or pull down their chin. To allow us to do lots of things that they might not really know how to do on their own. Some of the fit positions that we get dogs into, like, almost like lifting their leg to pee to try to reach underneath and with the clippers and, clean out the sanitary area. A lot of female dogs don't even know how to do that in balance. And a surprising amount of male dogs only know how to do that on one side. So, so when we talk about allowing us to move them around and to let us do things, that's going to make more sense for us as owners with our own dogs, because I think it's really important. If you haven't worked on that with your own dog, take some time and work on it because it's really kind of fun. It doesn't have to be a treat fest. It doesn't have to be a toy fest. It can just be part of cuddling, snuggling, watching TV, but just getting used to the idea that I'm going to move you around a little bit and I'm going to check and see if you're rigid or if you're loose. Okay? There's a lot more to that, but part of this podcast is getting you used to some of the ideas and setting the tone and the background of how we're going to achieve more. So if you have specific questions, please, please, please let me know. Send them in. And I can absolutely try to help you with anything on a personal level too, because you can just find out more. Talk to me. I'm here to teach you. This is really important stuff. And I want it to be easy. So this is part of our background stuff that I think everybody who has a dog should know. I think that this is important for owners too. So I want people to be thinking in terms of if your dog comes in. So today it's raining here in New England and it's pretty muddy. It's now beginning to stop. But if I bring my dogs in, I need them to let me towel them off. And I do the same thing. Posable action figure. Okay, lifting this foot. I might tell them everything that I'm doing, but I'm not asking for it. And I'm not asking them to perform anything. I am asking them to just simply allow me to do things to them. above them, below them, around them, um, and to let me wipe down their feet or run the brush through each time they come in and need to be wiped down, which is such a common thing for owners to be able to do and for owners to be able to work on that, oh, well, I'm going to keep you calm during this. I'm going to check and see if you're loose. And I'm going to hold you in a variety of ways so that we're all teaching these dogs how to let us help them. Today, I'd like to talk you through a typical new grooming, new customer. All right, so first they call me. And when we're on the phone, we talk about my house calls and my business practices, but then we also talk about the safety policy that if your dog becomes agitated, becomes overly silly, becomes very nervous, then I'm going to slow everything down and work on teaching your dog to be good, to focus on behavior. We did another podcast about that, and that was episode 1, talks about the safety policy. But to explain to them why that's important and that we can make progress. A dog that's bad for grooming doesn't mean they're bad for grooming for their entire life, and that's really important. So what kind of questions do I hear from my customers? So you might not finish him? Why would I pay for that? So then I have to explain to them, well, I might not get the groom perfect, but we will make behavioral progress for the future of your dog's life. Because grooming is what? About once every month or two for 15 years. So taking a couple of groomings to work on it in the very beginning, and you're still paying for my time. So that's what they're paying for. I think that often they have this idea in their head that we are paying for a groom, a trim, but we don't have like a box of trim or a can of trim that we can sell to them. Like trimming is a service and it's not an item. So we can't, like not every Cocker Spaniel is going to be the same price because it's not an item that we're selling. It's a service based on how much time we spend hands-on. Another question that I might get is how am I supposed to get him groomed if he's not good? And that's why we have to educate them about we're not refusing service. We're helping your dog be better for future groomings. We want to address the behavior issue, the fear, the stress, the anxiety, the aggression, whatever it is, so that they aren't like this forever. So that we can do successful, happy, relaxed groomings in the future. And, sometimes people ask me, so if a groomer won't finish him, how am I supposed to keep him clean? And that absolutely is part of how we sell it. We tell them that, well, what we need to do is teach him to be good so that he's good for me, he's good for you, he's good for the vet. He has a real understanding of what it is to be good for grooming. And, another question I hear, so you plan on charging me full price even if he's not finished? And sometimes that's, the the tough one. But I plan on charging you for my time. As a house call groomer, I already tell them that I'm setting up a 2-hour block or a 3-hour block, and you're paying for my time. Because I can't take a walk-in. That's not even possible as a house call groomer, right? So every business is a little bit different. But to tell them, well, I'm not going to make less money by being here with a dog who can't handle being groomed. I'm going to teach him to be good for grooming, but that's not free. So that's one way to kind of word it for people. Like, of course it's not. You're paying for a business to take care of your dog's grooming, and we do grooms on dogs who will let us do our job. And if your dog isn't able to let us do our job, then we need to help them so that they can be better in the future. Now, another question you might hear, how many grooms will it take to teach him? Oh, I wish I had a great idea of how long it would take, but each grooming that I do, I see improvement. Usually pretty quickly, right? So it might not be that they're ready to, be entered in a grooming competition behaviorally. Most of them aren't physically and able to be in a beauty competition anyway. But for a grooming competition, like the dogs are standing there so still and so perfectly, right? You might not have that really quickly, but you're going to be able to get the trim done pretty quickly if you follow keeping them calm, working on their behavior. So I usually tell people, you're going to see improvements. Because I am a house call groomer, they get a chance to see me and the way I'm working with their dog, and they get to see the way things work. They get to see when their dog is wiggly. They get a better idea of the tools and the noises and the amount of stuff that we do. When I used to work in shops, a lot of times people just had no clue about that. But in this day and age, go ahead and put up some videos I have a video that I show customers of what it looks like to do the 2-minute nail trim. If someone books a nail trim, that's the 2-minute version of the nail trim. So I have a video for that. And they'll often tell me, I had no idea that a dog could do that. Like, that's actually pretty normal. That's pretty common. That's the goal for the average pet. So if we actually tell them and show them what we need, they're actually pretty good about it. You know, then once we get the appointment started, I want to get a feel for what this dog likes and doesn't like. I'm looking at the dog's body language while I'm getting to know him, and I'm watching for signs of stress, signs of fear at every point. But then we go back when we get him on the table to, I want you to be thinking about those 3 steps of calm. I think I covered that in episode 2, but to start with calm, maintain calm, and end with calm. So each thing that we're doing, if I pick up a dog's foot and they start getting a little wiggly, like, oh, hey, let's calm you down again. And I'm not going to let go of that foot while they're wiggly. We need to calm before I release the foot. And that's what I mean by end on calm. I don't want them to get to the point where they're wiggly. Certainly that means I pushed them a little bit further than they can handle. But also to get this idea that, like, no, hey, dude, you're all right. I'm going to calm you down again. And when you're calm, I'll let you go. And we'll move back to it, probably do something a little bit easier than the thing that made them wiggly. But by working on calming the dog down, keeping them calm, we can also work on the feeling of this is safe, this is okay, nobody's hurting me. Instead of what we've been doing in many, many cases, which is trying to get the job done on a dog who is scared. And we know that that just creates more being scared. I want to gently introduce tools and noises. If it's a dog I've never groomed before, I'm going to start getting a feel for what kind of things freak them out. I will turn on a dryer before we need to dry. Why? Because I'm getting a feel for this dog. So if I have the dog on the table and I'm doing some brushing and I'm taking a look at things, I might go ahead and, turn on clippers and down low, pointing toward the floor so I can turn them on. Loud noise, boom, and turn them off again. Getting them used to being touched all over. Getting them used to, like, okay, what's this dog likely to do when I turn on a dryer? So I'll turn on a dryer. Just make the sound. I don't even need to put it on him at this point, just to get a feel for what does this dog freak out about. So we also want to, move around and play around with this dog, be willing to move with them. When they wiggle their head, work around that a little bit. I want them to feel like we're willing to back off a little and try later and to build repetitions. And what I mean by repetitions, if I pick up a foot and I decide, okay, I'm going to pick up this foot and you're a little bit wiggly and I got you to calm down and you're calmed in my hand and I've still got a hold of this foot, maybe I'll let it go this time without doing anything. Okay, well, that's building some trust. So next time I pick it up, we wiggle it around and I tell him this toe and I put the clippers on it and snip and let the foot down. Well, why'd you let the foot down? He was obviously being good. Because I don't want him to get upset. I don't want him to freak out. So go ahead, trim one nail, then pick it up a third time. Trim the rest of them. Each of those things is like money in the savings account. If he didn't freak out and you're able to work on it, that's just money in the savings account. That's just a good thing. Because he's not getting the repetitions of, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, right? And many, many dogs are really pretty good. For any of you out there who are looking for some one-on-one help, we have these wonderful devices in our pockets. These phones that we can do live video with each other. I can definitely set up a lesson with you, with the dog that you're having trouble with, right there on your table, and be able to guide you through some of this stuff. Definitely reach out and let me know. I am at Chrissy@happycritters.net. Certainly you can find me through the Creating Great Grooming Dogs Facebook group, and we can definitely set up times to work on these things together, because you might be surprised how much I can do for you live, where we're actually looking at each other, being able to observe what you're seeing, helping guide you, or even showing you on a dog over here on this end of video. So there are ways for us to help each other. There are ways to learn this from a distance. if you're ready to go beyond the podcast, and I hope you do, I've made it really easy for you. If you go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step, you'll see all of the options. There's the Scholar Lounge community, there's the Modern Grooming Professional certification, there's Master Canine Stylist and Professional Canine Stylist diploma testings, there's the Behavior Lab for coaching and private one-on-one sessions with me, and of course the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist program. So go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step.